Raging Bolt has been attacking for huge damage since its release in Temporal Forces, but with this new build, it might be even more consistent than it was before. For anyone who hasn't used the deck before, Raging Bolt's Bellowing Thunder attack can drop 70 damage for any energy card discarded from your Pokemon. This is crazy considering Raging Bolt is a basic Pokemon and requires no evolutions, and it can easily take out a Stage 2 Pokemon early in the game. But is the Noctowl engine the best way to play this deck, or is it better to just keep playing it like we did before?
I can't imagine why you would add owls to this deck. Like, that's where I'm at right now. I don't know why you'd ever add owls to this deck. To me, it makes no sense to add owls to this deck.
Azul certainly doesn't think the owls are needed, but let's go over the deck and test it out. We'll have 4 copies of Teal Mask Ogerpon to both draw cards and also put energy on the board for Raging Bolt to use. Even better, since it's a Terra Pokemon, it enables us to use the Hoothoot Noctowl draw engine. Noctowl is a crazy strong addition to any deck that has a basic Terra Pokemon because it allows us to search up any 2 trainer cards we could need from our deck. The biggest decision you'll have to make around Pokemon for this deck is which card to include as your secondary attacker. I'm choosing to go with a Slither Wing and a Cornerstone Ogerpon, but I've also seen this Koraidon or this Baby Raging Bolt from Surging Sparks as additional options. I like Slither Wing for the Pikachu matchup specifically because its Burning Turbulence attack has an effect that also burns your opponent, meaning this is one of the few Pokemon that can actually knock out Pikachu in one attack. Cornerstone Ogerpon is extremely helpful for wall Pokemon, which are everywhere at the moment. A Mimikyu or a Farigiraf EX will shut down almost everything in this deck, so Cornerstone Ogerpon is helpful to make sure you can still get an attack off no matter what you play against. To round out our Pokemon, we have a Squawkabilly to help draw cards in your first turn, 2 Fan Rotom to set up some Hoothoot and Noctowl in turn 1, a Latias to retreat between basic Pokemon, and a Fezandipiti to help draw cards when our opponent starts to knock us out. We will still be utilizing Professor Sada's Vitality for most of our energy attaching throughout the game, but Professor Sada pulls energy from the discard pile, so we need 1 Crispin to help get our first lightning and fighting energy out of the deck. 1 Judge is included to hurt our opponents in the opening turns of the game, and we'll mention a pretty tough combo here in a second after we get to the stadium cards. We also have a Pal Pad to shuffle any supporters we've used back into the deck. We'll have several ways to get energy out of the deck or out of the discard pile between Earthen Vessel, Night Stretcher, Energy Retrieval, and Superior Energy Retrieval. For our Ace spec, we'll go with a Prime Catcher to target any impactful attackers that are being set up on our opponent's bench, and we'll have 1 Bravery Charm to increase a basic Pokemon's HP by 50. I'm using Bravery Charm instead of the Ancient Booster Capsule, since it can be applied to any basic Pokemon instead of just Ancient Pokemon, meaning Raging Bolt and Slither Wing. For stadiums, we have 2 Area 0 Underdepths so that we can utilize all of the Pokemon we mentioned above, as well as 1 Jamming Tower. Jamming Tower gets a lot better after rotation, as most Stage 2 decks will want to use TM Evolution, and a lot of Terra-based decks will want to use a Sparkling Crystal. If we have a chance to put down a Jamming Tower and judge our opponent to 4 cards in our first turn going second, they could have a really tough time getting set up. Energy-wise, we're going with 3 Fighting, 3 Electric, and 6 Grass, so we have plenty of Grass energy for Teal Mask Ogerpon. If this video is helpful or you just enjoy it in general, please leave a like. That view to like ratio is super helpful in giving me feedback about the video. So our first game actually shows off the Hoothoot and Noctowl engine pretty well. We're able to use it pretty quickly, but we start out with a Fan Rotom in the active slot, which is great, and then our first Teal dance gets us to a Squawkabilly, so we know we're going to be able to discard our hand and get a completely new hand to begin the game. A little bit of a bummer to have a Prime Catcher in our first hand for this reason, but I'm going to send a Fighting Energy to the discard pile so we can grab it with Sada later, and then I decide to get, I think, just 1 Electric Energy here because I don't want to throw out too much of it too early on. I don't want to put down our Slither Wing yet because we won't really have too much of a chance to use it or a reason to use it. I'd rather get to a Raging Bolt first. And then I go ahead and attach this Lightning Energy, so if I need to retreat, I can, and then that Electric will go to the discard pile. We get straight into a Raging Bolt with that Squawkabilly, which is great. I put down the Jamming Tower in case our opponent wants to try anything with tools in the next turn, and then I go ahead and get out some of our Hoothoot using Fan Rotom. So I'm eyeing up what I want to do in my next turn. I have a Noctowl in hand and a Terra Pokemon on the deck, or on the bench, so I can use it. And I believe I'm going to want to get to probably another Raging Bolt so that this Sada in my hand can get the full value out of it. I can attach 2 cards instead of just 1, and then I'll need a bigger bench to do that. So I'll replace the Jamming Tower we have on the board with an Area 0 Underdepths, and that's what I'm thinking for my first turn. That'll set me up pretty well for my first attack as well. So if we can keep this hand, the Noctowl will get us to exactly what we need. I'm over here just reviewing some of what my opponent has. This Iron Valiant, when it's moved to the active slot, can put 2 damage counters on any Pokemon that it wants. So I'm starting to find out what my opponent wants to do with this deck. That Cramorant, if I have 3 or 4 prize cards remaining, can hit me for, I think it's 30 damage plus 30 more if they have the right stadium, and 30 more for the tool that's attached to it right now. So they're going to build up to somewhere around 120 damage, I believe. But it seems like they're going to want to consistently move around these Iron Valiant and just put some damage on the board. And then Iron Valiant does 200 with its attack as well. So I'm assuming that's how they want to knock out my Raging Bolt, put some damage down on it, and then come through the Iron Valiant. We might even see Enzation or Hopsation later in the match as well. So there's 40 damage counters. I'm definitely going to want to get a new Raging Bolt in play if possible. We'll see if we can keep our hand. Use Hop's bag to go ahead and get the Snorlax. That also increases the damage for Hop and Cramorant and all that. So they have their engine working along with Iron Valiant. And I know this isn't probably one of the top decks right now that we're playing against, but it's interesting. It's something new. And I thought this game showed off this deck pretty well. Or the ability to use Noctowls at least. So we go ahead and use Noctowl, get a new stadium for a bigger bench. We'll put down our second Raging Bolt here. And this allows me to use Professor Sada and get more than one. I got to check and make sure I have the proper energy in the discard pile. And then I go ahead and retreat my Fan Rotom so I can get that electric energy in the discard pile as well. And then I can put 1 fighting energy on the active, put 1 more on the benched Raging Bolt, draw 3 more cards, and continue from there. I would like to probably get another Teal Mask Ogerpon down for some additional drawing and some additional energy we can put on the board. But for right now, we're just going to Earthen Vessel, get a couple more energies, make sure we have an electric in hand so that we can put that straight onto our Raging Bolt and still be able to attack. But we just need 4 energy, I hear, doing 70 for each energy. So with plenty of energy on the board, we go ahead and do our attack. We check out what we have. I think I get rid of all of the energy on my Raging Bolts. I'm still trying to figure out their strategy here, so I think they're going to take out one of my Raging Bolts, and I might as well use the energy, leave 1 on the Teal Mask Ogerpon for me to use for a future attack. So that's something I'm still trying to find out with this deck, is like, what is the best way to get rid of that energy? When do I take it off of the active Pokemon? When do I just take it from the bench? But I was thinking in this game they were probably going to be able to put a couple damage counters onto Raging Bolt and the active and maybe even knock it out. They knock the stadium to be able to do some more damage, which is fine with me, so I can get rid of that Squawkabilly, that liability on the bench at this point. They go ahead and Nest Ball for a Fezandipiti, so that is always a target we can go after in the future, which is great. Not that this deck has too many Pokemon that are out of range of Raging Bolt, it's usually just 4 energy that we'll need, which is helpful. They go ahead and Jet Energy to put some more damage counters on the board. And I think if they can get to the 3 energy here, oh no, they just have 1 Iron Valiant at this point. If they had 2 Iron Valiant down, they'd be able to do that 40 damage, and they're just short with Cramorant at 230. So I was thinking they were going to get a knockout there, which is why I got rid of that energy, but luckily they aren't quite able to get there. This would also be a great time for me to have Professor Toro in the deck. I don't have one of those right now, and I don't have a switch either, are the 2 things that I learned from this game and the next one that we'll see that would be helpful to squeeze into this deck. So a Turo at this point would remove all that damage, and then this Raging Bolt wouldn't really be in trouble of getting knocked out so easily. But we'll have a Sada in hand, so we'll just go ahead and do that one more time. It would also be nice to be able to get to a Latias, so I can switch in and out a little bit easier. So that's what we're going to go ahead and get with an Ultra Ball here. And then maybe in the future, once they knock something out, we can put this Fezandipiti down. So we go ahead and grab some more energy that we need now that we have 2 Teal Mask Ogerpon on the bench. Discard a few things. We'll just take all of the energy. We know a lot of this energy is going to go right back into the discard pile, so not too big of a deal to take a bunch of this electric energy out right now. We'll retreat this Raging Bolt for the one that has the fighting energy on it, And then when we attach from hand, we have 6 energy on the board. Unfortunately, we don't have a way, since we used Sada in this hand, we don't have like a boss's orders, we don't have our prime catcher at the moment to be able to go for another 2-prizer. But I figure we can at least take out this Cramorant in the active slot so that they don't have such a free attack on us. And then the next time we take a prize card, we'll be out of range of Cramorant, we won't have to worry about it anymore. And now we get the boss's orders from the prize card, so we can go ahead and target something a little more impactful in the future. It feels bad though to take just a single prizer mid-game, because instead of being just 1 more attack from the end of the game, now I have to do 2 more attacks. So that is a bummer, but I thought it was still worth it to take out that Cramorant so it couldn't put some easy damage on us. And if they want to use this Hopzation, they still need to get a bunch of energy on it. I don't know if they're planning to use its second move, but we keep taking away their stadium, so they keep having to find Postwick. They do have that Hops Band tool card on it to do an additional 30 damage. They have Snorlax on the bench. So this thing is doing plenty with its first move right now. It just needs 1 energy. So they go ahead and use an Arven here, which will get them a tool card, which they'll probably put straight onto Cramorant to do another attack. Since we still have 3 or 4 prize cards remaining, Cramorant is able to attack, and they also have a switch. So with this Raging Bolt on the bench, with so much damage on it, things get a little bit tricky here. They just pulled a switch, so we know that they can bring this Iron Valiant in to take that out on the bench, and then they'll have a energy to discard, I believe, to be able to get into a Cramorant. So they'll be able to do some damage as well. I don't think it'll be able to do quite enough to knock out a Raging Bolt. I don't think Cramorant can do 200 damage, but it's still going to be a lot of damage that's going to leave us into a similar spot with another Raging Bolt on the bench that has a lot of damage on it. So I think all they need at this point is either a counter catcher, a boss's orders, a prime catcher, anything like that to be able to get this Raging Bolt from our bench in front of them. And that's what they do. They have a prime catcher here. Go ahead and move our Raging Bolt into the active and then bring up their Cramorant. So again, this could have been a 4-prize turn if they were able to do just a little bit more damage, but they're able to do 180 and leave us in that same spot. So if they're able to do the same thing they did on the last turn, move Iron Valiant into the active slot, this Raging Bolt is gone, and then they just have to focus on 1 more 2-prizer to win the game. So knowing this, I go ahead and retreat to the bench, bring back our Raging Bolt that has all the energy on it. I mean, at this point, energy isn't really our problem. We have 4 on the board right now. We have a Noctowl that we can use to get some more energy in hand if we need to, or this Earthen Vessel. I think I'm trying to figure out right now, if I use this Noctowl, what am I going to use it to grab? Because I know I don't have a Professor Turo to get rid of this Raging Bolt. We go ahead and use it anyway, just to take a look and see what we'll need. I believe I decided to go with Bravery Charm, just so this Raging Bolt on the bench isn't so susceptible to that Iron Valiant damage. And then a Pal Pad so we can continue to cycle our Professor Sada as we move forward. So I'll go ahead. I know that a Jamming Tower could bring us right back to where we were before, but we'll put down more damage on the board just for the next turn. We'll Pal Pad a couple Professor Sadas back into the deck, just in case we need them in the future. And then we'll Boss's Orders, something a little more useful. So instead of taking out this Cramorant, we know that Cramorant can't attack us if we take any more prize cards, so that's not a worry. And we'll go ahead and get this Iron Valiant so they can't so easily put damage on our bench or on our active. Go ahead and use Earthen Vessel to get a couple more grass energy out of the deck so we can draw some more cards, thin out a little bit, and make sure we can get to what we need in our next turns. Also just have a bunch of energy on the board to be able to use. And at this point, I'm not really seeing how they're going to be able to form an attack to knock out our active. I believe that's why I just take all of the energy from the bench in this case. So I go ahead and take 1, 2, I just need 4. I consider taking it off of the active, but then just decide to go forward with the Teal Mask Ogerpon instead and leave it on the active so that in my next turn, I don't even have to use Sada if I don't need to. I have an attacker ready. And this is kind of a gamble. I think if they're able, I know this Cramorant can attack, but if their Hopzation or something else comes into play that is able to take me out, I believe they could use a Blood Moon Ursaluna if they're able to slap that on the bench real quick. And it would put us in some trouble. they go ahead and knock our Stadium, which I consider taking this Raging Bolt off the bench, which probably would have been a good opportunity to do so. Really thinking about it here, and I think I decided just to go with the Noctowls. They don't have an easy knockout if they are able to do some bench damage in a different way. But yeah, with a Night Stretcher in hand, the correct move definitely would have been to get rid of that Raging Bolt and then Night Stretcher it back in our next turn if we needed to. Although I wouldn't have had any bench space. So I think that's why I decided to leave the Raging Bolt where it was, because I wouldn't have been able to put another one down unless they knock out this active Raging Bolt. So as you see there, they are able to get to a Blood Moon Ursaluna. They have a Jet Energy to put it into play, and I left the energy on my active Raging Bolt here because I just didn't see this play coming at the time. So a good lesson there for me to take the energy off the active if there is any way someone can get to an attack, but I was a little bit surprised to see Blood Moon Ursaluna in this deck. Luckily we have Sada in hand and a bunch of energy we can get to. Again, we just need 4. So if I'm able to get to 1 more grass energy, this game is over. They took a knockout, so I'll use Fezandipiti for the first time. There's the grass energy we need. And we're able to pull this one out, luckily, just by a couple damage counters here on our Raging Bolt. We were very close to having that knocked out as well. I'm adding an extra energy here. Maybe I can't count because we were good at 4 there. I'm not trying to grief, but that was game number 1. And our next game features a little bit better of a deck that we're playing against, as well as less of a dependence on Hoothoot and Noctowl. So we'll see how this deck performs without those cards, just because I'm not really as easily able to get to them so early on. So we start out with just a Teal Mask Ogerpon in our active slot. We go ahead and Teal Dance to get another one, and then we pulled this Raging Bolt as our top deck as well. So not all too much we can do. We're going second, so I try to use pretty much everything, a Jamming Tower, so they can't easily TM Evo or anything like that in their next turn. Go ahead and get ourselves a fresh new hand here, and it doesn't really help us get to too much more. I was hoping for a Fan Rotom or at least a Hoothoot or something, but wasn't able to get to one. So we go ahead, get a couple more energy cards, Teal Dance once again, and not an awful turn to start out, but not exactly how I would have wanted to play it with the deck build that I have. So again, no way to get to Hoothoot in our first turn, no Squawkabilly or anything like that. Luckily, Teal Mask Ogerpon is still here to draw a couple cards. But they go ahead and switch quickly straight into a Goldango. I think Goldango has been doing pretty well recently. It's a similar thought to Raging Bolt, where it can just do a ton of damage in every single turn, especially if they can find Energy Search Pro, which they pull out an Arven right away, and they will most likely get to an Energy Search Pro, which they do. So there it goes. They'll now be able to do as much damage as they want to, and easily enough to clear a Teal Mask Ogerpon. I think that's 5 that they'll need to use to do 250 damage, and an easy first knockout for them. So we're going to have to make them miss at some point if we want to catch up in this game. And I think what we're going to do right now with their Goldango so easily set up is just try and take it out. So we do have the energy we need in our hand to be able to do an attack, but we're still going to go ahead and use Sada just to get some more on the board. So again, this doesn't need a fighting energy, but I would have liked to draw more cards and put more energy on the board, so I use it anyway. And I know we have this electric energy in hand. I think this Slither Wing could also come in handy, seeing that they have a Fezandipiti on the board, and that's weak to fighting, so that will be able to be knocked out by a Slither Wing in the future. But for right now, I'm just going to take what we have. Again, a slower turn to start out. I have to use 4 energy, and I don't want to put too many other things on the board. I kept that Teal Mask Ogerpon in hand so that they don't have as many options. But yeah, kind of a strange start. I feel like this is closer to how you would play the deck if you didn't have the owls in it. They'll go ahead and flip the script here, get a couple more cards. I was about to say they're not going to be able to use a Sparkling Crystal because of this Jamming Tower, but we already saw their Energy Search Pro, so we know that's what they're using as an ace spec. So we'll see if they either get to a rare candy to get to a Dragapult, or if they're going to try and get to another Goldango, or Goldengo. How do you say that? I have a book that my nephew gave me that tells me how to pronounce all these Pokemon, and I might need to look that up real quick. Goldengo. It's Goldengo. Okay, I always have been saying Goldengo, so sorry about that. But anyways, they're going to go ahead and put some more energy back in the deck, as well as that Goldengo that was in their discard pile. They'll Iono because my hand was huge, so probably the right call there. And get us both back down to 4 cards. Now with this Hoothoot, it's a little bit of a gamble, seeing that they have the option to use Dragapult. I don't know if this version of their deck uses a Hawlucha or some other way to put additional damage counters down, but with 70 HP, if they're able to get to a Dragapult, and they have a Hawlucha or something, that Hoothoot could be in trouble on the bench. So it'd be a little bit of a gamble to put that down, and I'll have to keep that in mind. But so far they're going for the Goldengo version of this deck of just attacking for big damage over and over again. So we're waiting to see what they want to do here. I believe they already used this Recon Directive. They have an energy that goes down, but luckily, when they Iono'd, they weren't able to get themselves to a Goldengo. So we lucked out there. That was the miss that we needed to be able to catch up a little bit. We go ahead and put an energy with our Teal Dance onto Teal Mask Ogerpon. We end up putting the Hoothoot down just in case we can get to a Noctowl. And we go ahead and Nest Ball here. Get a, is it Latias on this time? No, it's another Raging Bolt. I believe actually I make a mistake here as well. I probably should just hold this Nest Ball in hand, seeing that they didn't take a knockout on the last turn. I also go ahead and use our Bravery Charm in case they are able to knock that Stadium. Then my Hoothoot will have a little bit more HP. But I go ahead and I think I put that Nest Ball down and then thought about it and was like, I shouldn't use this yet. So a little bit early on the Fezandipiti, and I'm not able to get to an attack as well. So we both stall a little bit here. I put this Fezandipiti down a little bit early, and it's a target on the bench now that they could take out, unfortunately. So I should have just left that Nest Ball in hand and kept it for my next turn when they're able to take a knockout, most likely. But instead we make a little bit of a misplay and we put it on the bench. I don't think that ends up hurting us too bad. I think they just grabbed the TM Evo right there, but they're most likely going to want to attack and take another 2 prizes here. They're getting all of the energy they need with Earthen Vessel, superior energy retrieval as well. So yeah, they definitely have a knockout here. And we're gonna be looking a little rough. I think the right move, if they could have taken that Fezandipiti out, would have been to do that, because I have 1 card in hand and really no energy on the board, just that one on Teal Mask Ogerpon. So I think if they had taken out this Fezandipiti, I'd be pretty much done for. But instead, they're not able to get to that, and they go ahead and take the 2 prizes that's sitting right in front of them. And I have a chance. So you're saying there's a chance. So by no means the best way I've played this deck so far, but we have an opportunity here. So we go ahead and draw back into that Slither Wing and also a Professor Sada. So we know we're going to be able to get the full value out of Professor Sada if we go ahead and put that Slither Wing down. And also there's still the chance we can go ahead and use this Slither Wing to win us the game against that Fezandipiti. So Professor Sada draws us a few more cards, which is awesome to attach energy and draw more cards. Professor Sada rocks. Then we're able to get to a Noctowl here. So I'm looking to see what's in my discard pile, see what else kind of energy I can grab. Go ahead and get the fighting energy to be able to attack with Raging Bolt. This is kind of why this deck is so crazy on its own, because without even using any of the Noctowl yet, we're able to start building back. We have enough energy now to take the knockout. And yeah, you play it pretty similarly without the Noctowl as to how we used to play it, but luckily we get to one here. We're able to search up a couple things. One problem I'm having with this deck is remembering what I've put in the deck, so when it comes time to use the Noctowls later in the game, I feel like I have it down pretty early, what I need to set up, but then later in the game I sit here and I'm like, what do I need? Prime Catcher wouldn't have been a bad idea here if I wanted to use the Slither Wing now. So if I attached from hand, could have taken out their Fezandipiti, put a Slither Wing single prizer right in front of them. So Prime Catcher would have probably been a really good move that I didn't think of until watching the recording back right now. But we go ahead to just continue drawing a bunch of cards to be able to attach to our Teal Mask Ogerpons. Drawing what we need, trying to force them to Iono us or something in the future. So we go ahead with Raging Bolt here. My thought at the time was leaving them without an attacker. So we go ahead and see if we learn our lesson this time. They only have 2 prize cards remaining, so if I had left their Golden Go in place and they could have just taken a knockout, the game was over. But we go ahead and take out their attacker. We get rid of the energy on the active this time, go us. And move on to our final turn. So now we're just kind of hoping that that Golden Go that they just moved into the active slot cannot get enough going for it. Hopefully they run out of steam to find another Golden Go, or they're not able to get all the energy back in their hand. With possible coin bonus, and then also flip the script, they're able to draw a bunch of cards, also Recon Directive. So I mean, this deck that they're playing has a ton of draw support, which would make it pretty crazy if they're not able to find a Golden Go and all the energy they need. They probably need another superior energy retrieval. Let's see what they're able to get to here. We wait, we let them ponder. I look at their Fezandipiti to make sure it is indeed weak to fighting, because I'm already thinking of what I want to do next. They go ahead and Buddy Poffin, probably to thin out the deck. I don't know what their next move is going to be, if they're going to start drawing cards here. But they seem a bit stuck. There's the superior energy retrieval. We know that's not going to get them to a Golden Go, so we're hoping they just don't have it like that at the moment. They have all of the energy they need, so all they need is the attacker. The suspense is killing me. I know what happens, and the suspense is killing me. And there it is, the boss's orders. So they actually help us out a little bit. I was gonna have to try and get to my Prime Catcher on the next turn, but instead, they just, because there was no way without having a bigger bench and Latias to retreat freely to get into this bench Pokemon. So that actually kind of helps us. I think they thought they were stalling us a little bit by moving Raging Bolt out of the active, but they actually helped us with the boss's orders. So big thanks to them. I could have Teal danced with some grass energy and tried to get to, man, I would have needed a lot of pieces there between Latias to retreat and a bigger bench with Area 0 Underdepths, or trying to get to my Prime Catcher so that I could have gotten Slither Wing into the active. But luckily they help us out, and we go ahead and take our knockout with the boss's orders that we have in hand. So yeah, a couple ways to play this deck, and I'm curious what you think the best way to play this deck is. You're still here? It's over. Go watch another video. Go.